Get ready for the biggest stories hitting the headlines today. We've got Joe Rogan and Jon Jones in a major UFC pay dispute that has the whole fight world talking. Plus, Ronda Rousey is stirring the pot with her criticisms, and Jorge Masvidal is firing back. And hold on, we're heading to the White House for a UFC event unlike any other, all happening on Donald Trump's birthday. You do not want to miss this. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a single second.
Your brand new iPhone deserves the best protection, and the iLume 3-Pack Screen Protector plus 3-Pack Camera Lens Protector has you covered. Don't take risks with your iPhone. Click the link in the video description to shop now on Amazon.
Joe Rogan defends Jon Jones in UFC pay standoff. He doesn't want to be done. Joe Rogan is weighing in on the heated dispute between UFC star Jon Jones and the promotion, and his take is sparking major conversation. Jones is reportedly demanding his release from the UFC after feeling lowballed on a new contract, a situation that escalated when UFC CEO Dana White publicly stated Jones might never fight again due to a medical prognosis. Rogan, in a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience with Dustin Poirier, defended Jones, revealing he even helped Jones explore stem cell treatments for his hip, which Rogan insists is not hindering his ability to compete. Rogan emphasized Jones' status as the greatest of all time, period, and expressed a broader belief that UFC fighters deserve higher pay, drawing parallels to his own comedy club model, where performers receive the lion's share of the revenue. He also commented on Ronda Rousey's recent criticisms of UFC pay, acknowledging she made valid points and that her public statements are putting pressure on the organization to reconsider its payment structures, though he remains skeptical about the UFC's willingness to change. Fans and analysts are closely watching to see if this public pressure will lead to any tangible changes in fighter compensation, especially with major upcoming events and star negotiations. Will the UFC actually change its ways, or is this just more noise? Stick around, because we're about to dive into another fighter speaking out. This time it's Jorge Masvidal's take on Ronda Rousey's criticisms. Former UFC BMF champ urges Ronda Rousey to back off from Dana White criticism. Ronda Rousey's vocal criticism of UFC brass has ignited a fiery response from former UFC BMF champion Jorge Masvidal. While Rousey prepares for her upcoming MMA return opposite Gina Carano, she's been outspoken, even claiming her Netflix-promoted fight is superior to UFC events. Masvidal, however, feels Rousey is going too far, particularly in her attacks on UFC CEO Dana White. On his Death Row MMA podcast, Masvidal argued that White was instrumental in Rousey's career, giving her a significant platform and opening doors. He acknowledged Rousey's fighting prowess, but questioned her current stance, calling her criticisms weird. Masvidal also expressed skepticism about the hype surrounding Rousey's comeback fight, suggesting it might be a decade too late to recapture the excitement of her prime. He believes comparing it to major UFC events, especially those featuring active champions, is a stretch, and that while many will tune in, it's unlikely to be the spectacle Rousey and Carano are promoting. Fans are divided, with some supporting Rousey's call for better fighter pay and others agreeing with Masvidal that her criticism of White is unwarranted given his past support. But the debate doesn't stop there. Joe Rogan is also weighing in on Ronda Rousey's comments, and he's siding with her. We'll break down his surprising take next. Joe Rogan sides with Ronda Rousey after her rant about UFC pay. Joe Rogan is adding his voice to the growing chorus criticizing UFC's fighter pay, publicly siding with Ronda Rousey's recent outspoken remarks. As Rousey gears up for her highly anticipated MMA comeback fight against Gina Carano on May 16, 2026, she didn't hold back at a recent press conference, specifically addressing the UFC's pay structure, which came under scrutiny after Jon Jones was reportedly offered a low sum for the UFC Freedom 250 card. Rogan, during an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience with Dustin Poirier, agreed with Rousey's assessment. He highlighted that Rousey's speech about the UFC's massive $7 billion deal with Paramount brought important issues to the forefront and is applying pressure for better fighter compensation. Rogan pointed out that if Netflix can successfully enter the MMA space, especially with significant financial backing, it could fundamentally change the landscape, emphasizing that fighter names, not promoters, drive viewership. This discussion comes as UFC fighters reportedly receive only 15–20% of the company's revenue, a stark contrast to the 50% typical in leagues like the NFL and NBA. This support from Rogan is amplifying the conversation around fighter compensation, with many fans now hoping for concrete changes from the UFC. Speaking of major UFC events, get ready for something truly unprecedented. We're heading to the White House for a fight card that's making history, and it's all happening on a very special birthday. All about the White House UFC fight on Trump's birthday. Get ready for a historic and unconventional event as the UFC is set to host UFC Freedom Fights 250 on the White House lawn this June, coinciding with Donald Trump's 80th birthday. Originally planned for July 4th as part of the nation's 250th anniversary celebrations, the event has been moved to June 14, 2026, a date that is both Flag Day and Trump's birthday. This unprecedented venue choice has generated significant buzz and controversy. UFC CEO Dana White has promised an epic fight card, including a main event featuring lightweight fighters Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title, and Alex Pereira facing Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight title. However, the lineup has drawn mixed reactions, with some analysts calling it solid but unspectacular, and notably, no women's fights have been announced, a decision criticized as a missed opportunity. The event also faces regulatory hurdles, with the DC Combat Sports Commission chair stating the fight may be unsanctioned without a permit, meaning results might not count towards official records. The partnership between the UFC and the Trump administration highlights a shared emphasis on hypermasculinity and a desire to challenge elite perceptions. Plans include constructing the octagon on the South Lawn, with potential for weigh-ins at the Lincoln Memorial and viewing parties accommodating tens of thousands. While White assures the UFC will cover all costs, including potential lawn repair, the event's scale and location promise a spectacle unlike any other in MMA history. The decision to hold a major UFC event at the White House has sparked intense debate, with supporters seeing it as a bold statement and critics questioning its appropriateness and the lack of female representation on the card. From fighter pay disputes to a historic White House showdown, it's been a wild ride. We'll wrap it all up with a quick recap and our full call to action right after this. All right, fight fans, that's a wrap on today's top stories. We saw Joe Rogan jump into the Jon Jones pay dispute, Jorge Masvidal clap back at Ronda Rousey, and Ronda Rousey herself getting support from Joe Rogan on fighter pay. And then, the jaw-dropping news of a UFC event at the White House on Donald Trump's birthday. Don't miss out on any of the action. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, leave a comment with your thoughts, and follow us on all our socials for more breaking news and exclusive content.